Hello, so today we're going to be continuing to talk about augments. So today I'm going to be going over gold augments. I'm going to be ranking them in a tier list. This is mostly for fun content that I like to do occasionally in the middle of a set, just to kind of give a rough idea of how I evaluate or talk about different augments relative to each other, and how I kind of rank them on a tier of which ones I'm really excited to see and take, and which ones I'm a little bit more reluctant to take and often only take in a really good spot. If you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. So we did the silver augments, and that one did really well on my channel, and there was a lot of likes and stuff. So I'm doing this one. Please note these are mostly for fun content. When the content's a little bit more for fun, it has the yellow border around it. I make guides daily, which are the red border ones or the pink border ones. Those ones will really help you if you're trying to learn TFT set 14, if you're trying to learn how to play different comps, different play styles, other stuff like that. Econ guide and how to play forecast are gonna come this week for sure, I promise. So if you're looking forward to those guides with the set 14 twist, they're coming this week. So that's the type of channel this is. If you like that, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're here from a previous video, make sure to subscribe because it does help me out. Now, let's go through them. So the same rules are going to apply here with the tier list. So I have from S to D tier, S being ones that I'm very happy to take almost always. If I see it, I very rarely roll it. I usually keep it open, and it's very flexible, very good with many different comps. I usually like it. C tier is going to be the lowest, right? B is going to be around average. We're going to call B like, if I have a good spot for it, or if it makes sense with my comp, I'll take it. It's not something I'm necessarily going to take to force towards. C tier are going to be augments that, I'm kind of like, I don't like these, or I'm very rarely taking these unless the circumstances permit. D tier are ones that I don't know about. That's like hero augments that I purposely avoid, and certain other augments that I might purposely avoid that are very forcing of the hand. And those are going to go in D tier. So if you see something in D tier that you think is really strong, it might just be because I don't have first-hand experience with it, or I just don't recommend taking it because I don't know enough about it, such as to play around it. Now, let's go through them. So 10,000 IQ. This one is a little bit awkward because strategists aren't that great. But if strategists are really good, it's actually pretty strong. It did get nerfed. But basically, every 5 rounds, you basically decide if you were going to win or lose more, and then it can give you cash outs. It's pretty good. It's on par with a lot of other gold augments, but it just gives you a little bit of an extra like mini game to play around. I'm going to put it in B tier because, excuse me, a lot of times like it can cash out more components if you make it super late into the game, but you're kind of like taking a little bit of a risk with it, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to like plan out to guarantee that you're getting your components and being right 100% of the time. This is pretty good from lose streak or win streak. If the spot's really obvious, then I would put in A tier, right? But if you're playing like in a mixed lobby and you don't really have a good spot and you don't want to like open fort in particular, that's why I'm putting it in B tier. It's a little bit awkward sometimes, at least in my experience. Magic Roll I think is really good. I don't know if it's A tier or not. I'll put it at the top of B tier. I'm not ordering within the tiers, but I'll put it here just in case I want to move it up later. Basically, what Magic Roll does is it gives you like a random amount of something, either components or extra HP. I can actually show you right here just for sake of learning experience for everybody. So this is a table on the same website. I'm using tactics.tools, and there should be a thing for a magic roll. Here you go. So these are the different cash outs you can get from it. So you can get a pan, you can get units, and they're tied to different rolls. That's why some of them have like higher percentage chance. A lot of times you're either getting like 4 components, or you're getting the cash outs with lots of different cost units, or you're getting like the HP one. Now this HP one is massive. This is just 250 HP on every unit on your board. This is usually like very nice to have. These ones are pretty like high roll, and you can hit them and you just feel like really good about them. And then in the worst case scenario, a lot of times you're getting this one or the component one. Component one is pretty okay. This one's like a little bit awkward sometimes if you get like bad components here, but it gives you a reforger, so you have a little bit of hope. And this one just gives you a lot of gold. So in the worst case scenario, if you're taking this to try and like, hit a frying pan, it's not a good idea, or hit a tactician's crown. But even in the worst scenario, it gives you quite a bit of gold, right? It gives you 2 3 costs. These each sell for 8 gold, and then it gives you this. It basically gives you like, 15 or so gold, roughly speaking, but in the form of units that you can use to streak. So it's pretty good even in like the most common situations. It's just not like game breaking or anything yet, so I don't want to put in A tier because I'm not sure how this tier list is going to work out. Next, all that shimmers. I think this is like good in certain spots. I'm gonna put in B tier. I don't think it's particularly broken or anything, but if you have an angle towards certain units that like certain items, so for example, like Vayne likes the Gambler's Blade, right? Like comps like that, or Twisted Fate likes Gambler's Blade, like, right? Like as a substitute for like a Guinsoo. Those work out really well, so then you can like have a lot of gold in excess and play around them. If there ends up being some sort of comp that works really well with Gold Collector, that's what we saw last set. There was a lot of Gold Collector comps that really liked Gold Collector. Then it becomes a little bit more powerful in that regard as well. Alter Ego D tier, because like I said, it's a hero augment. I don't really rank hero augments. I try not to play them. In my opinion, most of the hero augments are very risky. You're basically structuring your game plan around this augment in particular, which is very unique and different from anything else, so it's hard to evaluate without having first-hand knowledge or playing it a bunch of times in order to understand how it works. I just refrain from doing that because I'm like, I don't even know if it's bugged or not, and a lot of times hero augments in the past have been bugged, so I just purposely, like, I just don't play them unless like I have like 5 canes or something. I just avoid it. Anima Squad emblem. So here we get some of the emblem ones. I'm not going to rank any of the emblem ones. I'm going to leave them till the end, by the way. So all the emblem ones, they're just kind of related on whether or not the comp is super meta or super good currently. So for example, Anima is like really good in the first 2 weeks of the patch because everybody played Anima, and then the last 2 weeks Anima has kind of fallen off of popularity, so it's not like as popular. That's what I mean. It's like usually they're just tied to like the particular comps. Maybe we'll talk about them at the end. Ascension, I don't like Ascension that much. I don't know if I want to put it in C tier, but it's definitely like at a low B tier, right? Like, it's hard to say. The thing is that it's not upfront, right? That's whenever you think about an augment, there's augments that take time, there's augments that cash out later, and then there's augments like this one, which is like kind of like a little bit of both. It's basically like, for 15 seconds, you don't have a gold augment. That's basically what this augment reads. If I read this out to you, Ascension, after 15 seconds, your units gain 60% damage amp. So basically, another way of reading it is, for 15 seconds, you don't have a gold augment. Right? That's what makes it really awkward. If you're playing a comp where you have like a really strong, reliable frontline where you're stalling out, think like, you know, Guinsoo backline with like, you know, full Vanguard frontline, something like that. Like, this works out really well with like a Vayne comp, for example, like Vayne reroll, because Jarvan has been hard to deal with. The fact is, you're down an augment for 15 seconds. In those 15 seconds, the fight could be over. There's some fights that if you're playing a burst damage comp, the fight's over in 15 seconds. And even if it's not completely over, sometimes it's so your front line is dead or decimated by the time you hit Ascension, that it doesn't even matter that you get the damage amp, because like you can't clutch up anyways because your board's already destroyed. Compared to like other augments that give you upfront like something, like think like bulky buddies, right? It just makes you tankier. It's like instead of being down for 15 seconds, you have constant uptime on other augments. That's what makes Ascension kind of awkward. Now, I'm going to put in B tier here, not C tier, because there are some comps that make really good use out of it, and there are a lot of really good reroll comps. This works really well with those reroll comps, because if you can stall out that your front line is still alive, like think like a Jarvan. Jarvan's living till the end of the fight almost always, is usually the last one alive because he's just so fucking broken, right? Ascension's going to be really good there. Same with like Exotech, same with like some of the other lines where they have like these really, really large swollen front lines, which is something that we're seeing a lot in the current landscape of set 14. That's why I'll put in B tier, because you can still take it and still have use for it. Bad Luck Protection. This one's really hard to rank. I want to put it here, but I'm going to put it in B. In my head, I want to put in A tier, but I'm going to put in B. Basically, what it does, it makes it so you can't crit, but then it turns that into extra AD. It works really well with certain comps. Like, this is actually the most broken Zeri augment, actually. If you're playing, like, Hollowbow Zeri, you just use this to convert it, because you don't really care much about the crit. The thing with Zeri that's broken is that the crit chance turns into, like, the crit chance turns into crit damage, and that's what makes it really broken. But you could just convert all of that into AD, and it's just like really good. And then you put like QSS on her as well, and it makes really good combinations. Battle Protection is also really good if you're playing around Thieves Gloves, because the Thieves Gloves inherently give you crit chance because they're glove components or glove items that use gloves as components. So like stuff like that, it can actually work out really well. The problem is if you're not playing around AD comps, or in particular units that really like to like auto attack or have a bunch of AD, then it's a little bit worse for wear, because like obviously it's giving you AD as a stat, so you have to be like in that side of the damage chart in order to actually make use of it. So I'm gonna put in B tier, right? It's not C tier. A tier, it's A tier sometimes, but like let's just put in B tier because I think it can average out like that. Big Friend gives 10% durability basically to everybody if you have 17,050 L. I think it's around average. It's like B tier. It's arguably a little bit weaker because you need this condition. I think right now there's a lot of boards that have units that have really high HP, so you actually can get a lot of value off Big Friend, but I'm not necessarily saying that it's great or broken or anything like that. Big Grab Bag, this is just your run-of-the-mill, just get 3 components. I think that's B tier. Blazing Soul, really strong if you're playing AP. I'm actually inclined to say that it's A tier on AP units. 20 ability power, 20 attack speed. I think this is actually really strong. Like, in terms of the stats that it gives, it actually is, like, really good if you're playing AP. Like, this is, like, a little bit different than stuff like Big Friend or Big Grab Bag or even 10,000 IQ or Bad Luck Protection. Maybe, but I put Bad Luck Protection in B tier. This is where the tier list gets complicated because I would need like some extra levels here. Let's do this for now. Let's do this for now, okay? Let's do this for now and then we'll come back to it, okay? Board of Directors I think is pretty strong, but I think it's like, I don't have a proper opinion on it. I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it could be A tier. BRB I think is just really strong. I'm going to put BRB in A tier. It gives you 2 completed items, which is 3 components. So basically, for not doing anything for 3 turns, you get 4 components. Compare it to other augments, right? Look at Big Grab Bag. Big Grab Bag is 3 components. This is how you should kind of evaluate gold augments. This is how I evaluate gold augments, right? You can decide if you do this yourself, if it makes sense to you. But like whenever I think of a gold augment, I think of like the most run-of-the-mill basic augments that have been the same forever. Big Grab Bag. That is like a gold augment, right? Usually what you get is 3 components, right? So 3 components and a little bit of extra stuff, right? Here, 2 gold and 1 reforger. That's not too big of a deal. It's 3 components, right? Whenever something's giving more than 3 components, I'm inclined to say that it's doing more than average. And usually they have harsher conditions associated with them. Something like 10,000 IQ. This can give more than 3 components. But if you read it, in essence, it's giving you a LeBlanc and an Echo. So it's giving you 4 gold and 0 components up front. It's also giving you 2 gold. So it's giving you 6 gold, 0 components up front. If you compare 10,000 IQ to Big Grab Bag gives you a little bit more upfront, but then 10,000 IQ, you have the potential to scale it and get more later, and it also gives you the strategist opener, so you have like a little bit of compensation for what it is, right? This is so when I look at these 2 augments, I think they're around equal. If I look at BRB, besides the fact that you just can't do actions for 3 rounds, maybe that's bad in some situations because like if you have a lot of units on your board, you can't make econ or stuff like that. Like there's a little bit of awkwardness with it. But besides those 3 rounds of awkwardness, you then get 2 completed item anvils. So they're not even random. You get 2 completed items that you get to pick, which is really powerful. Like you not only are you getting 4 components worth of stuff, you also get to pick them as opposed to getting random components here and random components in other situations. That's why I look at it and I think to myself, this feels like an A tier augment, because if I can accept the deficit, which is just 3 rounds of no actions, I get what feels like more than some of the other gold augments. So while it is situational that you can't always take it depending on your spot, like sometimes you might need those 3 rounds, the downsides don't seem as crazy as the upside. That's why I evaluate it and put it a little bit higher when I'm looking at it. Bronze for Life. I don't know a good Bronze for Life board right now, but Bronze for Life Notorious has been like really good in certain situations. A little bit forcing though, so I'm going to put in B tier. Bulky Buddies I think is S tier. I'm a Bulky Buddies enjoyer. I think this augment actually needs like a nerf. Maybe I'm crazy or wrong or something, but basically the way that I look at it is that this gives 175 health to your whole board. Effectively, right? There's almost no board where you see Bulky Buddies and you don't think that it's good. Like, unless you have, like, insane frontline. But even if you have insane frontline, a lot of those comps want to have even more frontline, if that makes sense, right? Like, if you're thinking like Vanguard Slayer, for example, that has insane frontline, you can actually benefit from having even more frontline, because a lot of the reasons those comps that work with big frontline is because they need to ramp up a Gwinsu, so you actually work either way. Bulky Buddies just gives so much HP, so even if, like, you know, in the worst case, it's just like a little bit of extra HP and you already have a bunch, in the best case, it stabilizes your board quite a bit. Your backline's harder to get sniped because they get extra HP. Your front line's stronger. And then also, aside from the 175 health, you also gain a 15% max health shield on half your board essentially, right? Now it only lasts 10 seconds, so of course it could like peter out, but that, roughly speaking, that's like another 7.5 effective health on your board, right? Half your board gets 15% health shield, effective health of 7.5, right? On top of the 175 health. It's just like, no matter what board you're playing, your board can benefit from just living longer, right? Living longer and doing more damage and being more tanky is something that's always going to be helpful. Aside from the specific cases where you have insane amounts of bulk already, this is just an augment that you can always, like, you can't really go wrong is what I'm trying to say. It's pretty reliable to just take and just be like, okay, that's fine. That's at least my opinion on it, so we'll take it. Calculated loss, I think situation is really good. We're going to put in B tier though. Capacitor. When techies cast, grant the lowest health techie a shield equals to 200% of the mana spent. I don't know how good this is. I don't know if I should put in D tier or just B tier. I think I'm going to put in B tier. I think it's good from what I've seen. However, it's a little bit awkward to play around. Because like you really want to have like a bunch of techies that are casting a bunch in order to like keep that shield up time. But like vertical techie is a little bit of a hard board to play because usually you want to like balance it with a little bit more frontline. You're never playing 8 techie. You're rarely playing 6 techie, and a lot of times you're playing closer to like 4 techie where capacitor starts to feel a little bit worse. Unless you're specifically playing like Vigor reroll or low cost rerolls, then it becomes a lot better. Start taking a sip of water. Interrogator's favor, I think this is just like really, this is just generically alright, right? You get 3 component anvils. It's just in that B tier if you can take it. It's just pretty average. Category 5, I think category 5 is B tier. There's lots of units that actually can make pretty good use of it, so it's actually a little bit better. And it gives you an item and it just makes them a little bit more powerful. Think like Vayne, like that was like the OG Vayne thing that you can play around. Clear Mind. No champions. I actually don't like Clear Mind as much. I'm going to put Clear Mind in B tier. Okay, so with Clear Mind, it's really hard to play around because you can't hold units. So it actually limits your options really harshly towards like tempoing and not being able to like find or hold on to upgrades. Also, when you're playing Clear Mind, it becomes very difficult to Clear Mind up when you are on stage 8 or even when you're level 8 or level 9, because like you're losing value on it later in the game, if that makes sense. So it's really good to like tempo level and get to like a reliable level 8. It's an Econ augment, right? But it's situational. It's not something you just like instant click. Like A's are the ones where I'm like actually I'm gonna put Bad Luck Protection down. This one's really specific because you not only need to be playing AD, you need to be playing crit as well. So I'll move Bad Luck Protection. But let's say these other A tier ones. These ones are generally very strong, and you can often structure your board and play around it pretty convincingly and easily. Blazing Soul is really powerful on AP, so it has a condition, but it's a better condition than like the other B tiers. I think it's like a lot more powerful, so I put in A tier. Clear Mind, it has conditions, right? It could be really strong if you're trying to tempo level, but the problem is, like, of the econ related traits, I feel like it's one of the weaker ones, and that's why I put in B tier, specifically because you have to have your bench empty, so you can't hold on to units, and you can't like use that to properly structure and stabilize your board. So a lot of times you're loose streaking with Clear Mind, which makes it like a little bit awkward compared to some of the other augments that exist. Climb the Ladder, I think, is situationally good. It's really good if you're playing vertical trades, really useless if you're not playing vertical trades. Think like Climb the Ladder with 7 Anima, for example. Those are the spots where it's particularly good. It also could be really good with Slayer Vanguards. I've seen it do really well there. Clockwork Accelerator, I'm gonna put in B tier. I don't think it's quite in that A tier. Cloning Facility, I think, is A tier. It's just a little bit slept upon because it's hard to play around. Getting an entire extra unit on your board is extremely powerful, and a lot of times it can tempo you very aggressively in your early game, or it can also stabilize you very well in your mid game. It works pretty well with reroll comps, because rerolls you can obviously just put the 3-star in there and get an extra 3-star. It works really well if you're trying to aggressively tempo, so if you're trying to play like level 8, level 9, because you get to save a lot of HP by having a whole extra unit on your board. And it also works really good in max cap situations, because you can put a 5 cost on there and just have a duplicate copy of an upgraded 5 cost, which just gives you a huge amount of potential to cap out your board higher than a lot of other situations. So this is an augment that works well at all stages of the game. I don't think it's like an instant click, because obviously if you don't have an upgraded unit to play, it's a little bit awkward to play around, but I can justify its use case in early game, mid game, and late game, which to me means that it's a good enough combat augment that I am pretty happy taking it, which is why I put in A tier. It's something that's, and it's also generic, so it doesn't matter what board you're playing, it can fall into your lap very easily. Cluttered Mine. Now, I think Cluttered Mine is a little bit better than Clear Mine, but I think it's still in B tier. Now, the difference between Clear Mine and Cluttered Mine allows you to hold a bench. Holding a bench is really powerful because it allows you to have upgrades. You can play for win streak or lose streak. Now with Clear Mine, you're typically a little bit more rich because you're just selling everything. But Cluttered Mine also gives you 4 1-cost champions at the start of the round. So you actually don't grief your Econ that badly because it basically gives you an extra 4 gold. If you compare it with Clear Mine, it doesn't give you anything, right? So Cluttered Mine gives you that initial 4 gold that actually helps to fill out your bench. So you're not at that much of a deficit. I think the biggest argument for Clear Mine is that, oh, I can make more Econ because I don't have to hold a bench, and Cluttered Mine I have to hold a bench. It's a little bit like, you know, if you're like one of those people that gets like a little overwhelmed and claustrophobic, I can understand that Clear Mine is a little bit easier to play in those situations. But band for band, if you compare these two, Cluttered Mine gives you a lot more opportunities to stabilize your mid game that actually helps you in these like tempo level scenarios. Clear Mine, it forces your hand a little bit. You either have to have a really good opener that you already have upgrades, you have to high roll your shops that they just have like 3 copies of the same unit in your shop, or you have to just like full open. Cluttered Mine, you have a lot more opportunity to do basically anything you want. You can hold on to units, you don't have to feel stressed, you don't have to sell units, you can hold on to unit pairs as well. It gives you a lot more potential in order to cap out your board. However, compared to some of the other Econ augments, I don't think it's like in that A tier section. I'll talk about those when I get there. Cognitive Implant. Your techies gain 5 ability power, increased by 1 for every 2 takedowns. I think this is strong, but I don't know, so I'm going to put in B tier. If this is 8, I'll put it at the top maybe. You know, it could be A tier. It could be A tier. It's hard to say. Cooking Pot. Ooh, Cooking Pot's hard to judge, for me at least. So Cooking Pot is really good if the reroll is really strong into that comp a lot of the time. Usually with Cooking Pot, you just get so much value if you have a good opener for it. But the specifics are very specific. Like, I think Cooking Pot is A tier if you have specifically a unit that you want a Cooking Pot. Think like you get Cooking Pot and you have a Rengar. If you have a Rengar, Cooking Pot is A tier. I'm clicking it almost every time. If I see Rengar and I see Cooking Pot, I'm clicking it. You know what I mean? It makes sense there. But like in most situations, you can't really click it. So it's very narrow on the situation. It's not like, for example, Blazing Soul that I have in A tier, where it's like any AP comp, it's good, right? You can be playing Vex with Exotech, you can be playing Bran, you can be playing Bran Ziggs, you can be playing like, you know, some reroll that's AP, like Vigar or something else, right? It's very strong in a lot of situations. Even Dynamo, in some Tempo Dynamo, it's really strong. But Cooking Pot, it's like you need to have that an opener for it, or else you're just losing so much value off the non-HP, so that's why I'll put in B tier. Cower Weaklings. Is this the one that, I don't know how... Is it A tier? I'll put in A tier. I think this one is really strong. It gives you the Poppy and the Vigar. It's really good because the thing is, Cyberboss abilities reduce their max health by 20. In some cases, this is actually really powerful. It forces your hand a little bit that you have to play towards a certain comp, but basically you're just cutting everybody's HP down, and actually works really well for tempoing into Ziggs, even if you're not rerolling Vigar. So you actually have 2 options to play around this one. You do need to have AP opener and you want to be playing around these units, but it actually is pretty strong, and because you have the option to still play Ziggs later, it's pretty good. It's hard to say. It's a little bit forcing though. I'm gonna put in B tier. It's very narrowly A tier. It's really strong. Don't get me wrong. It's just hard to gauge it. Crown Guarded, I think, is like B tier. It's like in certain situations it's good. Crown's Will, I don't actually like it that much. I feel like it gives so little value. This is like Bailout, right? It gives you 1 component and it gives you 10 AP, 10 armor. And I think they're actually nerfing it next patch. This is like a little bit preemptive, right? Because they're nerfing it, I think. So, like, I'm going to put in C tier. If they're not nerfing it, then, you know, use your deductive reasoning and put in B tier. I feel like if you're taking Crown's Will, it gives you so little stats, right? Like, 10 AP is very little. It's, like, actually, like, very small. And 10 armor is pretty good. But for a gold augment, it's actually a very small amount. If you compare 10 AP and 10 armor to bulky buddies, where it's giving you 175 health and a 15% health max shield, which works out to be like, you know, roughly, if you math it out, maybe like 7.5 shield on everybody. it's actually not a lot of stats. Like 10 armor is not that much, and 10 AP is very little. So like, I'm not a big believer in it. I think it's really good if you specifically need a rod and a bailout, but I'm very rarely just clicking it and taking it. It's good if you're tempoing though, right? Like if you start your stage and it gives you a completed item, and then you just use that item to like basically like win out on the entire stage, then obviously, yeah, it's good, right? But that's what I mean. I wouldn't take this unless it's like for me winning out on the stage, right? Like let's say I need a rod to complete my third item on my carry. It's like I'll take it because the alternative is I just sit there with 2 items on my carry and I'm a lot worse for wear for the stage. But that's what I mean. But if I have like Crown's Will versus like big grab bag, I'd rather take big grab bag in that case as well. That's why it's like not in the same tier to me. Cut purse, I'm gonna put in B tier. I don't know how good this is. It's hard to say. It's really good in certain spots, but it's really dependent on how good executioners are. I think cut purse is really bad early game, and I think it's better in the mid game. Like if you like get a cut purse with like already upgraded units, it's really good, cause it's like it's kind of hard to like manage. Like I wouldn't just take cut purse and just force towards it. Also, I think they're removing the Rengar if I'm not mistaken, but giving a Rengar on a Graves is pretty good. Cyber deck, I think it's getting nerfed, but right now it's A tier. If it gets nerfed, you can put it in B tier in your head. But I forget. On combat start, basically this is like binary airdrop for 2 of your units, and the exotech items are actually really good. So like if you have good exotech items, they just get an ideal one as well, and exotech scales off of their items really well. So you actually get like 2 additional items from this, and the items are actually really strong. The exotech items in general feel like a little bit better than a regular item, if that makes sense. So you're getting 4 components for free if you're playing exotech. What more can you say? It's good, right? Like compared to the other gold augments, they give you 4 components. Look, BRB or cyber deck. Cyber deck, you just have to play exotech and you get 2 items. BRB, you just have to lose 3 rounds or like AFK for 3 rounds. You see what I mean? It's like on par with these ones, which is a little bit better than the B tiers in my opinion. Cybernetic bulk, 300 HP is a lot. I'm gonna put it in S tier. If you don't know, you can even put components on units. It's a lot of value for what it is. Cybernetic bulk is one of those augments that, similar to bulky buddies, you shouldn't really skip it unless you have a good reason to, because bulk is just good in general, right? 300 HP is 300 HP. If you can get 300 HP on most of your units, that's like, you know, almost double what bulky buddies gives. It's really powerful. Cybernetic implants, this one I'll put in A tier, because you need to be playing units that use AD, right? This one gives 120 health, which is still really good, but then it also gives 20 AD, which is like a little bit, you know. And then uplink, I think uplink is... Mana, I think, is better than AD. I'll put uplink up here, right? Now, these two, I think, are a little bit worse than bulky buddies, but I think they're like on par, right? These are like those, like S tier is the ones where it's like it's always good. A tier is like it's often good. B tier is like it's sometimes good, and C tier is like it's rarely good. Maybe I should have said that at the beginning of the video. That's like a really good way of explaining what I'm thinking. Divine Ascension, I don't know how good this is. I'm gonna put in B tier. I'm gonna put in D tier. I actually have no idea. Dummy with a gun. I think this is good if you're playing Syndicate. It's very specific though. Duo Q. 2 random 5 costs and 2 copies of a random component. 10 gold. This is usually like a bailout. I'm inclined to put in C tier. Right? You're usually only clicking this if you have to be bailed out. Epoch. 4 XP and 2 free rerolls, and then Epoch Plus 8 XP and 3 rerolls. I'm gonna put them in here. I think they're like similar to these ones. We're not ranking these. Flatline, I think is pretty strong. I'm gonna put it here. Forward thinking, I think forward thinking is A tier. If you have the HP to work with, forward thinking is just so much gold. Ever since they buffed it, I think this augment is broken. It's actually so much gold. It can often even be S tier, but I think it's just a little bit hard to play around sometimes. You actually have to think about it. So I'm gonna put it A tier. Basically, you just lose all your gold and then you get it back on like 4-2. It's just so much gold. Sometimes in certain encounters, you can even fast 9 off of it. This augment just gives you so much. It's like you have to really convince me not to click it. Freestyling, I think this is B tier. It gives a lot of gold, but it's not that crazy. Glass cannon, it's getting nerfed, so I'm gonna preemptively put it in B tier because I think it was A tier before that. Gold for dummies, I think is B tier. It's situational. You have to have a really good front line to support the dummies getting gold. But if you already have a bunch of dummies, then it can work out really well. So obviously it can be broken. Golden fleece, I think is bait. I think like you could just take a combat augment instead of golden fleece and still play golden ox. Golemify, if you can ever take this, it's almost always good. A tier for sure. You need to have a lot of econ. If you have a lot of econ, Golemify, you can't go wrong. This augment's so broken. The golem has so much fucking HP. It's absolutely like fucking mind-boggling. This shit is so broken. But you have to have gold in order to support it, because if you don't have a lot of gold, then you'll grief your econ by clicking this. But holy shit is it strong. Healing orbs, I think, is A tier as well. It's just effective HP. Honestly, it might be S tier. I'm down to put in S tier. I really like healing orbs. Healing orbs basically is like 400 effective HP every time you kill a unit. It's a lot of HP. It does a lot of healing, but sometimes it can be a little bit grief. Actually, I'll put it in A tier. It can be a little grief sometimes. It's really good with melee comps. Like if you're playing Zed or what's it, Rengar, like somebody who dives the backline. What's his name? Shaco, right? Like because they're gonna get the healing orbs proc, so they're just gonna like they're just gonna go infinite. Health is wealth. I think B tier. Heroic grab bag. I actually really like heroic grab bag. Where do I put heroic grab bags? It's so good for tempoing. I'll just put it in B tier. I think it's situational. It's really good though. I can argue that heroic grab bag is A tier. So it's good if you're playing reroll, obviously. Because like not necessarily, but it's like it's comfortable. It's comforting if you're playing reroll, because with reroll you can just get it and then you can hit your units a little bit earlier. I understand that. The reason I value it so high is because it gives you so much gold, right? Like all of these, 7 gold for a gold augment. It gives you 7 gold and 2 duplicators. So what you can usually do with a heroic grab bag is you pick a 3 cost unit. So let's say Jarvan right now is broken. If you get a Jarvan, you take heroic grab bag. You don't even give a fuck if you're rerolling or not. You take the heroic grab bag. It gives you 7 gold and you use both dupes on the Jarvan instantly. What happens is now you have a Jarvan 2 that is unkillable. You're going to win every single round. And you started out with 7 econ. You could just tempo and you could go straight to level 8, straight to level 9. It is so strong for tempoing. And it's also good if you're rerolling, right? You could just hold on to them and use them for rerolls, or you can use it as a bailout to hit your reroll units. If you were just using it for reroll, then it's not that great, because it's like, you know, ideally your spot for your reroll is good enough that you hit without having to take an augment dedicated to hitting, because then you could just take a combat augment. Like let's say I'm playing like Vayne reroll. I don't want to take heroic grab back. I'd rather take, you know, a combat augment so that my Vayne hits harder, because I should be in a good enough spot to hit the Vayne anyways. You get what I'm trying to say? It like hurts your max cap. So it's usually like a bailout or a comfort thing, but because it's so good for tempoing, it gives you so much gold, that's why I'm arguing why it's so good, which is why I would say maybe it's like A tier. High voltage, I think it's like B tier. There's some comps that work really well with it, but some that don't. Hostile takeover, I think this is shit. I don't know though. Basically, this turns Cypher from a lose trait into a win trait. So it kind of turns it into like, you know, win and get cash outs that way. It's so hard to tell. It's like, you need to have like a Cypher upgrade, I think. Because, yeah. Okay, let me explain what I'm thinking about. It is really good if you have a good spot for it, because then you can just win and get a Cypher cash out and convert that into like a Giga first, right? 100%. But if you don't have a good opener, this shit fucking sucks. It is so bad. It is like actually so bad. And the problem is the Cypher units are all high cost units that carries, right? Draven is a 3 cost, Galio's a 3 cost, Zed's a 4 cost, and then you have LeBlanc, which if you're playing Cypher into LeBlanc, it's a little bit awkward to play hostile takeover LeBlanc, because like your items won't work well. You want to be playing more towards AD, because you're going to be capping around the Zed ideally if you're playing hostile takeover, right? So LeBlanc's hard to play around. But that means that your opener has to have like such oomph. It has to have such chutzpah that you're like winning out with these high cost units that you don't necessarily have. Like I would take hostile takeover if I have 2 Dravens on my bench and this gives me Draven too, because then it's clearly fucking broken. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I can't say that it's that good. So maybe I'll just put it in B tier, just to appease the people who might think that it's broken, right? It's fun, at least, like, I guess. Hunter, Killer. I think it's B tier. I think if you have a spot for Boombot, you take it. If you're not playing Boombot, it's obviously useless. Hustler. Hustler, I don't know. I'm actually gonna put Hustler in D tier. Maybe I should put Divine Ascension here. Yeah, I'll put Divine Ascension there as well. Sorry. Hustler, I'll put in here. I actually have no clue. I can't figure it out. Inspiring Epitaph, A tier. Just really strong generic combat. 20% max health shield. That's great. Just your every other unit, or basically every unit more or less gets like a 20% health shield. That's a lot of effective board strength. Investment strategy, really good if you have a spot for it, but you can't just take it out of nowhere. It's really good if you're playing reroll. Item collector, I think, is like B tier. It's like not that strong of a combat to me. Keep your friends close. I think this actually sucks. I don't think it gives that much, right? I'll just put in B tier. I can't tell. Last Stand, I think, is A tier. It gives a lot of stats, right? And it gives you a second lease at life. I'm going to put in A tier. I think it's strong. I stand by that. Lethal rerouting. I think this is broken. I'm going to put in A tier. I can't tell, though, because Jarvan's so broken. That's the problem. This gives so many stats, though, right? It gives 20 AD to everybody, right? Like, it gives 20 AD to your Slayers, and then it also gives them, like, an extra 15 Omnivamp. I guess I'll put it with all the other ones. I think it's a little bit better than some of the other ones, though, so I'll put it in B tier. There is one that I'm thinking of that is really strong. Liquidate, I don't know. I'm going to put in B tier. I think this is good if you're playing Cypher already, right? You trade in the intel, you get a whole bunch of extra power, but the problem is it could grief you because some of the Cypher cash outs, you want to keep the Cypher units. So it's a little bit awkward sometimes. That's why I don't think it's like A tier. Little Buddies, I think, is really good with a lot of comms if you're playing like level 8 comms. Little Buddies works really well in almost every meta 4-cost comp. It's really good with Brand Ziggs. It's really good with Anima. It's really good with Street Demon. It's pretty good with... it's actually not that good with Vex, but it's okay with Vex. You just have to structure your board a little bit. Actually, it's not that good with Vex. It's not that good with Vex. We'll put in A tier. I think it's fine. Basically, the way that you should always treat it is kind of like a square rule. If you can balance... Now, obviously, you should play high-cost units. The more high-cost units you play on your board, the better your board is going to be. But as a rough rule of thumb, half and half split of Little Buddies and Big Buddies is going to give you the most bang for your buck, right? Because your 4-cost and 5-cost will gain 55 HP. And 6% attack speed for every 1 and 2 cost unit on your board. If you play more 1 and 2 cost units, you'll gain more HP on those high cost units. Of course, you should just play a board where you stack your 5 costs, right? Like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm just saying in your mid game. Like, some people say, how many Little Buddies should I have? The answer is that usually you should just have enough Little Buddies to support your Big Buddies. Usually it's like a 50-50 split, I think, is the most quote-unquote mathematically effective amount of units to have. But generally speaking, swap out your shit units for good units. It doesn't matter if you're getting as much value from the augment. If you have a 5 cost is a 5 cost. A 4 cost is a 4 cost. You know what I mean? So just like stack your 4 costs. Make sure you have at least 1 Little Buddy or 2 or 3 if you can manage, and then play them. So boards that naturally fit those in, something like Anima Squad, where you're playing like, you know, 1 and 2 cost units and 4 cost and 5 cost units that do most of your damage, that works really well. Brand Ziggs, for example, you're playing all 5 costs and 4 costs, and then you can just get your synergies with some of the 2 costs and the low cost units. So it's actually really, really powerful in those boards because it gives you so much value on the units that actually matter. And that's the thing that's really important. Long distance, I think it's situationally really good. It's really good if you're playing like techies or slayers, like units where they stack stats really, really high, because then when they share them with each other, you'll get a lot of value off of it. But it's situational and it griefs your positioning often, so you have to be very aware of it, and it kind of sometimes can be overlooked. But usually those type of traits where they give you heavy stats is the ones that it works best with. Mace as well, I think it's similar to these ones. It's actually a little bit better, maybe. Malicious monetization. I think is like, you know, you just take it if you really need a bailout. But it's actually a lot of gold, so I don't want to put in C tier. Mana flow, I think, is really strong with the units that use it. It's either A tier or B tier, but I'm going to put in A tier. It's similar to Blazing Soul. But the thing with Mana flow is that it works really well because almost everybody wants to have their casting done. You know what I mean? So I could work with AP and AD. And there's really no downside. Memory Bank, I think, is strong. Because it gives us Zhonya's and Aurora. I'm down to put it here. It's just, the problem isn't that Memory Bank is a weak augment. The problem is that Dynamo kind of sucks. Right? Because, like, and now they're even nerfing Aurora. So, like, maybe it drops down. But this just gives you so much value, right? The 7,000 mana isn't even that hard to hit. Because if you have, like, an opener for this, it actually puts you in a pretty good spot. 7,000, and then it gives you a Zhonya's and an Aurora. So it gives you an Aurora and a really fucking strong artifact that's good for Aurora. And Aurora is like the biggest problem with hitting is with playing around these lines. You could play Memory Bank into like any comp that uses Aurora, and it would still be pretty strong in my opinion. That's why I put in A tier. Mentorship. Mentorship's a little bit harder to fit in. I'm going to put in A tier though. It's pretty, actually, you know what the problem with mentorship is? There's some comps that really can't use mentorship, like Street Demon. It gives a lot of value, right? But it's like, it's really awkward to play around. Like, compared to Bulky Buddies, right? Bulky Buddies gives 175 health and then the health shield. This one you need a higher cost unit to position with. So a lot of times, especially if you're playing around 4 cost boards, you need to hit a 5 cost that fits your board in order to like get value for your units that actually matter. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of awkward sometimes. It's good with certain comms, don't get me wrong. But it's not like crazy. I'm going to put it actually in B tier, but it's very close to A tier. You can argue it's A tier, I don't care. Moonlight, I think it's very situational right now. I'm going to put it in B tier. I still don't know if there's, like, I think it's really good with like Techie and like some other comms where you're playing a single 1 cost, but it's very situational. It's arguably even C tier. But I don't know. New Eye Score, this one's A tier for sure. This one is the one that gives you a Kabuko cash out. So this actually is really strong because if you're playing that line, the biggest thing that you want is to stabilize around your 5 cost late game. When you're playing around like the Techie strategist line, or you're playing like max cap towards your Vigar reroll, or even like playing around Ziggs. This is actually insane. It gives them, like, it gives you loot constantly. It gives you extra stats, like it gives you attack speed, and then the cash out, like the later cash out, literally gives you what you need to cap out your board. If I see New Eye Score, I am usually clicking it and playing towards Vigar Poppy. Like, unless it's contested in the lobby, it's just, it gives you a copy of each unit, so it puts you in a spot that you can maybe play around them, and then it also like gives you such a good spot for it. So if your items give you any semblance of like playing around AP, this is just really good. It's just really strong. I think out of all like the, you know, quote unquote like trait augments that you see here, it's just like, it's just there. It's just good. No scout, no pivot. If you can play reroll, it's broken. I'm putting in A tier. Noble Sacrifice. There's not really any comps that I see it really good with. I'm gonna put it in B tier though. I think it's like okay at worst. Maybe it's C tier. Not today. If you're playing around those comms, obviously. If not, One for All, same thing. If you're playing around those comms. Overclocked, I think it's good if you're playing around Amp. Overheal, I think Overheal is A tier. So Overheal, every third attack deals an additional 130 damage and heals 50% of the damage. Excess healing is converted to a shield. I think Overheal, like, this is just generically good, but it's also really good with auto attackers, because basically you're just doing extra, every third attack is doing extra damage, and it gives you healing on it, which is just really good for your whole board. So it's generally pretty good. I'm down to put in A tier. There's some comps that can really abuse it and be really strong and powerful with it. Typically your Guinsoo comps are going to do a lot better with it, because basically the Guinsoo comps are going to proc that every third attack effect a lot earlier. But there are a lot of Guinsoo comps. There are a lot of comps that attack very fast. And there's a lot of comps that really like Omnivam. So it actually, I think, is really good as a general one, because it actually works with a lot of different routes of different comps you would play. So I like to put in A tier. Pair of 4s, I think it's good situationally. Obviously, if you're only playing 2 4 costs, it was okay with like Exotech. Pandora's, okay. We have to have a discussion. Okay, I'm gonna mute the music. So, I don't really read comments that much anymore. I made a whole explanation of how Pandora's is very, like, whatever, and I feel like people just didn't listen to me, because one of the first things I did was I opened my phone after making the other video, and I got like a 10-paragraph essay. I don't know what the fuck it was saying, but it was just explaining to me that, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, that Pandora's is good. Now, I don't think I forgot how to play the game over the last month, because last month I was top 500 in NA, right? I was 492, right? GM, right? I'm telling you guys from the honest truth of my heart, this is noob bait. Items don't matter as much as you think they do. It's just because you guys aren't familiar. Like, if you honestly think Pandora's is a broken augment, I'm not saying it's like bad or good. If you think it's broken, if it's like a must-click augment in your head, then you need to just evaluate your augments a little bit differently. You have to honestly just think about it a little bit more. This augment does nothing except give you good items. If you have a good understanding of the game and how to pivot and how to play around different comps, you don't need to force your items. That's part of TFT. Part of TFT is being able to play around the items that you are given. If you're able to play around the items you are given, this doesn't do that much. So I understand that if you're starting out the game and it's your first game played, Pandora's is going to be super helpful because you can just follow a guide and make the perfect items for yourself. If this is your like 10th game playing, you should be able to understand how to prioritize your items, what to take on carousel, how to slam components. These are things that you learn as you get better at the game. And as you learn those things, Pandora's does absolutely nothing. It does a little bit in certain situations. There are some spots where Pandora's is really good. It's not here. This is not here. You could put it here and I'll be happy. To me, it's here. That's fine. We'll put it here because I can understand if we average it out, it's an average augment at best. It's not broken. It's average at best, right? Because what you're doing is you're taking an augment to guarantee you have certain items. That can work out in certain spots, like if you have a really good spot for a comp and you need to fix your items, it's a good bailout. If you have like a really good spot where you need to like randomize your bench a little bit, like, you know, like you have like a lot of emblems or it's one of those type of encounters, then it can work out really nicely. If you need it to tempo, like you need to just complete a certain set of items, it also gives you a component, right? 2 components is pretty valuable. Yes, it can work out like that. However, what is better off, you having the exact perfect items, sitting there not making any items and just having them rolling on your bench, or taking any combat augment? The combat augments are going to save you HP. They're going to put you in a better spot for your game. You're going to have way more HP. Pandora's, a lot of times what you're going to do is you're just going to sit there. You're going to hope that, oh my gosh, hopefully Pandora's is going to roll into the correct item, and you're going to waste your whole game. And that's going to be really bad for you. Now, like I said, it is situationally good, and it's a really good bailout. And it gives you 2 components. It's B tier. It's B tier like the rest of them. Now, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I don't want to see 10 paragraphs explaining to me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because I'm saying something very reasonable. And it's crazy. That's why I don't respond to comments anymore. Partially because I don't have time. Second of all, I don't have time to read like in 10 paragraphs and explain to somebody the exact thing that I explained. So please be mature and reasonable with like the way you're looking at it. It's not S tier, okay? Let's get that out of the way. And it's not A tier. Because it's clearly not as strong as some of these other ones. Holy. Now, if you don't understand how items work, what I would recommend is going to this channel here, which is my channel. There's a thing called playlists, and you can go here, and there's a set of item guides. Watch these, and you won't need Pandora's anymore. I guarantee you. Watch these, and you won't need Pandora's anymore. They're from last set, so they're going to be a little bit awkward. I'm going to make new ones for this set. Watch these 4 videos, and then tell me if you need Pandora's again. You won't need it anymore. Trust me. But it's B tier, okay? It's average. You can take it if you want. It's good in certain spots. It's not broken. Okay. Patient study. I think patient study is pretty good. A tier. Actually, maybe not. Let me read this. 2 XP if you wanted, 3 XP if you lost. There's not really a downside to this. It's either A tier or B tier. I think it's like top of B tier. This is like one of the really good ones, right? Because it doesn't have that much of a downside, but in some cases, if you're tempo leveling, it can be a little bit awkward. Piercing Lotus, I think, is really good as a generic combat, and it gives some utility. I'm down to usually take it unless I already have crit. So I actually like it. I put in A tier a lot of the time. Pilfer, Each round, 1-star con. Yeah, I'm gonna put in B tier. It's around there. A polished chrome. I actually don't know how good it is. I'm gonna put it in B tier. The one with the turret is broken. Portable forge. If you have a spot for it, it's B tier, right? Because if you have a spot for it, it's really good. Power leveling. I don't actually like this one that much. I'm gonna put in B tier. Preparation, I think, is really strong. A tier. It just gives you a lot of stats for what it is, right? Similar to some of the other ones. It just feels a little bit overstated. Prize fighter. It's good in spots. I'm going to put in B tier. It's good in spots. That's all I'll say. Pumping up, I think, is generically really good. It's just good in a lot of different comps because most comps like attack speed, right? If you have a casting comp, attack speed helps them. If you have a Gwinsu comp, attack speed helps them. And a lot of rerolls, Gwinsu or attack speed can help them as well. Pyromaniac, we're going to put in B tier. Raining gold, B tier. It's like just the generic, like you get a bunch of gold. Reactive shell, I think, is B tier. Same ideology, right? And reinforcing Skeletor. Yeah, and then reinforcement is like really good bailout. We'll put in B tier for the same reason. Replication, we'll put in B tier. Salvage bin, I really like salvage bin, but I'll put them in B tier as well. When I say B tier, it's like these are situationally good, right? A lot of them, whenever I look at something in B tier, this is in my head like balanced as well. B for balanced. It's like they're good in spots, they're not good in spots. You just have to read it and see if it applies to you. Scapegoat, same thing. Scoreboard Scrapper, I think gives insane stats. If you have a spot for it, I think it's A tier. Like, of the lost streak ones, this actually gives so much value. Like, I'm down for it. It's just really risky. Scavenger, I think, is B tier. I don't even know if Scavenger works yet. Last time I took it, it felt like it didn't work still. Sated Spellweaver is broken on certain comms. It's really good. It's similar to, like, Overheal, where it just gives you a lot of value for what it is. Right, you're just giving everybody extra Omnivamp and then giving them extra shielding. And some comps, like especially Vex, this is like insanely broken on Vex, for example, as well. Shop Glitch, I think, is just one of the best augments that just gives you like really good potential of like capping really high. It gives you a lot of rolls. It gives you a lot of value. It works out to be a lot of gold. Whether or not you're playing a 3-cost reroll or even a lower cost reroll, I think it just gives you a lot of value. Even if you're playing like a 4-cost comp or Cypher, I think it's just a really good enabler for a lot of different opportunities. Slamming, I'm going to put an A tier. So the reason I like slamming a lot is 2 reasons. Number 1, it pretty much has constant uptime, right? Gain a random component, so it gives you 1 component to start. So compared to some of the other ones like Patient Study, let's compare it with Patient Study. Patient Study gives you 2 XP if you won or 3 XP if you lost. So it's on par with slamming, or it gives you 3 XP in certain cases if you're losing rounds. So it works out to be more XP. Same with Clear Mind and same with Cluttered Mind. However, with slamming in particular, you have constant 2 XP. Slamming plus especially, you get the extra XP at the start, which is insanely strong. You get a component which allows you to more easily figure out your opener, whether you're on stage 2 or stage 3. You can basically slam your items and be a little bit more capable. The thing is, whenever you're playing around your components, you can just put the components on random use on the board. You get lots of removers now anyways. So there's actually 0 downside to slamming. Even if you don't want to make items, that you're worried, that you're stressed out, that you don't know which items to make, you can still get a lot of value off of slamming because you can just put the components on other units and you can just slam 1 or 2 items. Normally, if you're playing TFT and you're trying to, like, you know, play and grind ranked and like do well in the games, you should be making items anyways. So this actually has no downside, right? The thing is, you also get constant uptime, right? Compared to Clear Mind and Cluttered Mind, these ones usually at one point you stop getting value from them, right? At one point you're gonna do your level 8 roll down, and you can't just like sell your unit pairs, and you can't just roll to 0 and hope that you hit everything. A lot of times you lose Clear Mind value for like all of stage 4 and like a lot of stage 5. It basically just falls off at one point and you don't really get use out of it in order to level 9. It does give you more gold up front early on because it's giving you 3 XP per round, so it is really strong. Patient Study, usually it's more of a lost streak thing, so it becomes a little bit awkward to play around. But slamming has no downside and it continues to have uptime even later. So if you hit your level 8 board, you can still make it to level 9 with the value of slamming. Excuse me. Sorry, allergies. But with slamming, you still get a value. You get uptime a little bit later into the game as well. So it actually helps you to cap high as well as be a really strong Econ augment with pretty much no downside. Because you should be making your items anyways. And even if you're not making your items, just put your components on the units on your board and you'll be fine. So it's not even that bad. And you get so many removers that it's not that big of an issue to just put the items on the units anyways. So if you're comfortable, or if you can find the comfortability to play around slamming, you can exercise that muscle. To me, it's a bit better than all the other ones that give you EXP. For those reasons, right? Component, constant uptime, no downside, right? All the other ones, like Clear Mind, there's downsides. You can't hold your units on bench, so it can grief you, especially if you have to hold units to play comps to cap out late game. Cluttered Mind, you have to hold a bunch of things. You can't make Econ, but that's not too big of an issue. But then the other thing is just the uptime later is a little bit awkward. Patient Study, you usually have to lose streak, or if you're win streaking, then it's at best the same as slamming, so it's like marginally better than slamming. It's not even that much better. But this one too has constant uptime. So you can argue Patient Study to put it up there with slamming. If you want to, that's fine. I just think slamming is better because it gives you the component as well, which I think is really valuable in addition to everything else. Spare parts. This one is broken. You get an extra turret. So basically when you play Nitro, you get an extra unit on your board, which eventually evolves into the T-Hex. With spare parts, you literally also get a turret, and this turret is fucking broken because the turret also gets the benefit of the 4 Nitro laser, so it shoots the laser as well. And this turret basically puts you up 2 units. You can be level 5 with 7 units on your board. Level 6, you have 8 units on your board. It is so good for tempo. It is so good for reroll. It's so good for every version of Nitro. If you see this, I honestly think this is like a take and you just play Nitro. Like, even if Nitro is considered bad nowadays, I still think it's good with this augment. Like, this augment actually gives you so much value and it scales you an extra dude. It's crazy. Spear's Will, I think it's pretty good. The thing with Spear's Will is that it gives you starting mana. It's getting nerfed actually. So I actually like it more than Crown's Will, because Crown's Will, the starting mana on Spear's Will actually matters because getting it cast off earlier can often sway a fight. The extra armor and the AP, like if you compare these, they're very similar to each other, but the starting mana is actually massive. So the 10% attack damage, if I have to like, maybe we can put it here. It's getting nerfed, so I'll put it there, okay? But I think it's a little bit better because of the mana, so that's why it's there. Speed kills, I don't know. I've seen it work once, so I'll put in B tier. Spirit Link, I think is really strong. It just gives a lot of value for what it is. I'm going to put in A tier. It gives so much healing, and this healing actually scales if you're already losing rounds and stuff. It's really good with a lot of reroll comps. It's really good with a lot of really strong frontline comps. Really good with Exotech that has a lot of HP. So I actually put it a little bit higher. I actually evaluate it similar to these ones in A tier. Spoils of War, I think is situationally okay, B tier. Starry Night, I think is really strong. I think it helps you to hit so far ahead of tempo that I think Starry Night is in that A tier category. Comparatively for all the other reroll things. Support Spire I actually really like. I'm gonna put in A tier. Support Spire, this thing gives so much fucking value, right? Like the shield, attack speed, and stunning, it actually makes Anima really good. Like whenever I see somebody take Support Spire and place Anima, it feels like it's really strong. Now maybe that's just placebo because Anima might just be a little bit stronger than people think, and this just gives you a reason to play around it. But I actually think it's really strong. Like similar to like new high score, it's like in that same tier. Support Cash I think is really good. Just getting a support item, I actually like it a lot. I'm gonna put in A tier. Support items are so strong. Tagging Spree I actually don't like that much. I'm gonna put it here. Too much value, I'm gonna put it I think too much value also goes in A tier. I lost where I am. Teaming Up, you don't get to pick the support item, and this is only offered late in the game, so it feels more like a bailout. So I'm actually gonna put in B tier because if you get a bad support item, it actually can't work that well. Chugbug goes in D tier because I just don't try these. Thorn-Plated Armor. So Thorn-Plated Armor is actually really good early game. So let me tell you something about TFT. In early game of TFT, Thorn-Plated is actually really strong. The reason is that Thorn-Plated, how do I phrase it? In your stage 2, Thorn-Plated can actually help you to scale really well. It gives a lot of damage, it gives a lot of value, and it gives you an item, which helps you a lot, right? The thing about Thorn-Plated that's really great is that in the early game of TFT, a lot of units are just stuck auto-attacking, right? The frontline units, all they do is auto-attack. Backline units, they mostly auto-attack. There's actually a lot more AD damage. Like, this isn't always the case, of course. Like, you can play around AD and AP. But typically, especially early game, it can actually work out really well to take Thorn-Plated because you can actually win a lot of the stage 2 fights because they're just going to take so much damage from auto-attacking into the Thorn-Plated armor, right? So it's actually really strong as an item early. Like, that's why Bramble, you'll hear sometimes people say, like, early game, a lot of units do auto attack, so Bramble's good early game. The thing is, it's just like, you're usually not in a spot where you're making Bramble Vest early. So a lot of times, like, you have to still think about, is Bramble good in this lobby? I would still think if Bramble's good in this lobby, so you can take it just blindly as an early game item, and it actually works really well because of this augment. However, it also gets the bonus effect of, like, you know, if you're playing into a lobby where a lot of people are playing AD, like if there's like Vayne and Zeri and all of these comps, then it actually gets value into late game as well, which is crazy. So that's why it's an A tier. Tomb Raider, I think, is like, you know, C tier. You should very rarely click this. You're basically saying, I'm going to be down a gold augment until I can click it. I don't know. We'll put in B tier because it actually does give you a lot. Tower defense, B tier, same idea. Trade sector, B tier, same idea. Just like similar to the other ones that I explained. It's like it's good in certain spots. It's good for direction, maybe early. Trade tractor, I think, is broken. It's getting nerfed, but I don't know how much of a nerf it is. Trade tractor, you actually cash out really good things with it. I think it's giving only 5 random emblems. If you just gotta memorize your trade tracker board. For those of you that don't know, you can go on perfect synergies. And you can look at, and there's a tool here that tells you like how many synergies you can fit in and stuff. So you can just find one of the trade tracker boards like this to cash out your trade tracker. But it's also really good into Exotech. That's like the general thing. Before it was like trade tracker into scrap. That was last set. Exotech scales really well off items. So it actually works really well in those type of boards. Transference, I think this is broken, but not yet. So we're going to put in B tier, but be aware next set thing. Trial Run is getting nerfed, but it's hard to rank it because right now it's really strong. It just gives you a golem that gets all the Exotech items. Especially if you have a tank Exotech item, this shit works so well. It's so broken. Transistor, I think this augment is shit. I'm going to put this one in C tier. Let me reread it though. Bastion start. Combat bonus ends. 50% of it converts into attack damage and ability power. Okay, I'll explain why. I tried this out. The problem with this one is that of the other ones, like for example, Reactive Shell. Reactive Shell like makes damage based off like initial shield of Vanguard, and they get a big shield, right? A lot of these augments, they make sense with what they are, right? Like this one gives bruisers more HP. This one converts their armor into AD and AP, and a lot of the Bastion units besides Renekton don't really do anything. They don't do any damage whatsoever. So to me, when I look at this one, it's actually like one of those augments where it's like, what is this? It does nothing, right? Now maybe I'm wrong with that, but I'm okay to be wrong, right? A lot of the other ones, it makes sense. Like the tank ones give you more tank. This one just gives you upfront magic damage, so that's great because it doesn't matter if your unit is built to do damage. Here, it's like usually your units have a bunch of tank items on them because they're tanking, because they're bastions. None of the bastions are particularly like a bastion attack dealer besides Renekton. Maybe Jax, but Jax is a 1 cost, so it's rare that that's going to be the case. Maybe Shyvana. Shyvana can make use of it, right? Because you get the ability power and attack speed. So maybe it's okay with like a Shyvana build. But it's like very, you know what, I'll just put in B tier. I don't want to hear bullshit because I ranked all the other ones in B tier. I'll just put in B tier. But I think it's worse than the other ones. Just know that. Trifecta, it's good in this case. 2-trick is actually really good if you're trying to tempo early games. So I think it has good value. So I'm going to put in B tier. Vampiric Vitality, I think, is okay in certain spots, so I'll put in B tier. Wandering Trainer, if you have a spot for it, I think it's good. It's good for direction. Warpath, I hate Warpath. I'm putting in C tier. This shit is so fucking bad. It was also bugged, and I don't trust it that they fixed the bug. I'm gonna be honest, I went 8th a game, or not 8th, I went like 6th during one of my placements because Warpath was bugged. So I still don't know if it's fixed yet, so I'm putting in C tier. I know they said that they fixed it, but I haven't tried it out. I'm never going to try it out. So it's just going in C tier. I'm never clicking it, right? If you think it's broken, go ahead. If you want to click Warpath every single game, go ahead. I guarantee you guys, I'm never clicking it again. I lost enough LP from it already that I've decided that I'm not going to be the one to figure out if it's working or not, okay? Because I found out that it wasn't working. So I already did my part, okay? Pat me on the back. I did my job, okay? I was one of the people that got scammed by it. So I don't want to figure out if it's working or not. I'm good. Worth the wait, I think, is really good in B tier as well. Good situationally, and you can also use for Econ. I put a lot of these in B tier. Some of them I kind of talked about that I could put them in C tier. I don't really care about editing the tier list. In terms of the emblems, I don't think emblems are that great unless they really fit into a certain board that you need them. The only one that I think is really crucial is Executioner. There's some of them that are crucial. Like Anima is really good. Executioner is really good just because it helps you hit those thresholds earlier. And Golden Ox is really good if you're playing around Golden Ox. Besides those ones, I think that the other emblems are usually skippers. It's very rarely that I look at them and I'm thinking to myself, I really need this emblem to cap out my board. Alright, I think we're done. Hopefully that's good. You know, enjoy the tier list. We're going to do Prismatic next, but that one's going to take a little bit of time because I have to separate the black market from the non-black market. I know a lot of them are B tier. This website doesn't have extra tiers. If I had like a BA, BB, BC, and I can split these up a little bit more, fine. But I did try to explain every single augment and how I kind of evaluate it. Some of them I kind of skimmed over, but just used the same logic that I applied to some of the other ones. I think these ones are clearly ones that I really like to see. Maybe some of them you can argue up or down a tier, obviously. And these ones I just don't have enough experience trying out yet. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that was enjoyable. For all of you that requested about the gold augments, here it is. Have fun. See ya. Bye-bye.